This is Shadowline News with the update we promised you on the Boniface Mwangi case. In a dramatic turn of events that exposes the weakness of state intimidation tactics, Kenyan authorities have been forced to drop terror charges against prominent human rights activist Boniface Mwangi. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations backed down from their initial terrorism accusations, following widespread condemnation both locally and internationally. Instead, Mwangi now faces significantly lesser charges of unlawful possession of ammunition, a strategic retreat that speaks volumes about the government's inability to substantiate their more serious allegations. The activist appeared at Kahawa Law Courts on Monday morning, where he denied the charges and was released on bail. This development represents a stunning reversal from the dramatic dawn raid narrative that authorities initially constructed around Mwangi's arrest. Just days ago, police claimed they had seized phones, laptops and notebooks from his Kenya home, painting a picture of a dangerous terrorist operative. Now, those same authorities have quietly abandoned their most serious accusations, leaving only ammunition possession charges that many legal experts view as equally questionable. The timing of this climb down cannot be ignored. Public pressure mounted swiftly after news of Mwangi's arrest spread across social media platforms and international human rights networks. Opposition leaders and civil society organizations immediately condemned the terror charges as a transparent attempt to silence one of Kenya's most vocal critics. If you haven't subscribed to Shadowline News yet, now is the time, because we told you we'd follow this story wherever it leads. And here we are with the update that mainstream media might have buried in fine print. The government's retreat on terror charges exposes the hollowness of their initial case against Mwangi. When authorities arrest someone in a pre-dawn raid, seize their electronic devices, and loudly proclaim terrorism charges, the subsequent quiet withdrawal of those charges tells its own story. This pattern reveals how terror laws are being weaponized against activists across East Africa, with governments quick to make dramatic arrests, but unable to sustain their allegations under legal scrutiny. The ammunition possession charges that remain appear equally suspect to many observers. These charges allegedly stem from a search conducted at Mwangi's office, Majuzi Hub, located on Rose Avenue in Nairobi's Hurlingham area on July 19th. Critics argue that ammunition possession charges have become a convenient fallback for authorities who cannot prove more serious allegations against activists. The fact that these charges emerged only after the terror allegations collapsed suggests a fishing expedition rather than solid evidence-based prosecution. What makes this government retreat even more significant is the context in which it occurs. Mwangi's arrest came just one day after he filed that explosive lawsuit against Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya at the East African Court of Justice. The timing suggested a coordinated effort to discredit him before his torture allegations could gain traction in regional and international forums. Now, with terror charges dropped, the government's intimidation strategy appears to have backfired spectacularly. Hussein Khalid, CEO of Vocal Africa, has sharply criticized the government's handling of this entire case. His reaction reflects growing frustration among human rights defenders who see a pattern of arrest, first find evidence, later tactics being deployed against activists. Make sure you ring that notification bell, because cases like these demonstrate why independent journalism matters more than ever in holding power accountable. The broader implications of this government retreat extend far beyond Mwangi's individual case. When authorities feel compelled to withdraw terror charges due to public pressure, it demonstrates that civil society pushback can still force accountability even in increasingly authoritarian environments. This victory belongs not just to Mwangi, but to every Kenyan who spoke out against the abuse of terror laws to silence dissent. However, the ammunition possession charges that remain serve as a reminder that the government hasn't completely abandoned its persecution of the activist. These lesser charges still carry the potential for imprisonment and continued harassment through the legal system. The strategy appears designed to keep Mwangi tied up in court proceedings, while avoiding the international scrutiny that terror charges would inevitably attract. The government's swift retreat also raises uncomfortable questions about police investigative competence. How does a case go from terrorism to ammunition possession in the space of 3 days? Either the initial terror allegations were manufactured without evidence, or the subsequent climb-down represents a failure of prosecutorial nerve under pressure. Neither explanation reflects well on Kenya's criminal justice system. This development comes at a particularly sensitive time for President Ruto's government, which faces growing criticism over its handling of recent protests. The use of terror charges against activists has become increasingly controversial, with human rights organizations documenting a pattern of abuse across the region. By dropping the terror charges against Mwangi, authorities may be attempting to reduce international pressure while maintaining domestic intimidation through lesser charges. The activist's release on bail represents a tactical victory, but the war over civic space in Kenya continues. Mwangi's case has become a symbol of broader struggles over press freedom, human rights advocacy, and the right to dissent in East Africa. His treatment by authorities reflects the challenges facing activists across the region who dare to challenge authoritarian tendencies. The international attention this case has generated demonstrates the power of global solidarity in protecting human rights defenders. When local authorities know that international eyes are watching, they become more cautious about their most egregious abuses. This dynamic explains why the government felt compelled to retreat from terror charges that might have triggered sanctions or diplomatic pressure. The dropped charges also vindicate those who argued from the beginning that the terrorism allegations were politically motivated. Civil society organizations that immediately condemned the charges as fabricated have been proven correct by the government's own actions. This validation strengthens the credibility of human rights defenders who continue to face similar accusations across the region. As we continue monitoring this developing story, remember that every share, every comment, and every subscription helps us bring you the news that powerful interests would prefer to keep buried. The story of Boniface Mwangi's legal battle is far from over. While terror charges have been dropped, ammunition possession allegations remain, and his broader lawsuit against East African governments continues to make its way through regional courts. The government's retreat on the most serious charges represents a victory for civil society, but ongoing vigilance remains essential. This is Shadowline News, proving once again that sustained public pressure can force even the most stubborn authorities to back down from their worst excesses. Stay engaged, stay informed, and never forget that democracy's survival depends on ordinary citizens refusing to accept extraordinary government overreach. The fight for justice continues, and so does our commitment to bringing you every development in this crucial story.